Has the Church replaced Israel? A look into replacement theology. So what is replacement theology? Replacement theology teaches that the Christian Church has replaced Israel in God's plan. So why is this incorrect? Well, here's 6 reasons why replacement theology is not a biblical doctrine. Number 1. The Bible explicitly promises that God's covenant with the Jews will be eternal, i.e. unbreakable. Jeremiah 31 verses 35 to 36 says this: He who appoints the sun to shine by day, who decrees the moon and stars to shine by night, who stirs up the sea so that its waves roar, the Lord Almighty is his name. Only if these decrees vanish from my sight, declares the Lord, will Israel ever cease being a nation before me. So have you seen the sun, moon or stars today? If so, you can know that the nation Israel still has a place in God's plan, because this passage clearly states that so long as the sun keeps coming up, God will never reject the Jewish people, the offspring of Israel, no matter what they do. Number 2. The New Testament explicitly states that the Old Testament promises and covenants to Israel are still the possession of Israel. Romans 11 verse 29, For the gifts and the calling of God are irrevocable. Notice the word irrevocable. The Strong's Concordance meaning is not to be repented of, or about which no change of mind can take place. This statement of Paul's comes in the context of his discussion of God's faithfulness to the Jews, in spite of their unfaithfulness. And Paul clearly states that God's promises to the Jews are irrevocable. In other words, the Church can never replace the Jewish people in God's plan. Number 3. The Old Testament explicitly teaches the future permanent restoration of the nation Israel. Ezekiel 36 to 39. This passage promises the future salvation and restoration of the nation Israel to its land. We encourage you now to pause this video and read this passage for yourself. This passage also shows God's personal involvement in fighting for the Jewish people against the nations of the world in a gigantic end-time battle. Afterwards, the Jewish people will live with God's presence, blessing and protection in the land of Israel forever. Amos 9:15 says, I will plant Israel in their own land, never again to be uprooted from the land I have given them, says the Lord your God. Number 4. The New Testament reaffirms the Old Testament expectation of a future salvation and restoration of Israel. Acts 1 verse 6 says this: Then they gathered around him and asked him, Lord, are you at this time going to restore the kingdom to Israel? Clearly the apostles all believe in a future, literal restoration of the nation of Israel and the Jewish people. Number 5. Nowhere in the entire New Testament is the term Israel used for those who are not ethnic Jews. Thus, there is no biblical basis for identifying the church as the new Israel. The term Israel is used 73 times in the New Testament and always refers to ethnic Jews. The vast majority of these refer to national ethnic Israel, while a few refer specifically to Jewish believers, rather than all Jews in general. Number 6. If God could break his covenants with the Jewish people, what's to stop him from breaking his covenant with us Christians as well? Believing in this theology would defunct the whole Bible. In Romans 11 verses 21 to 23 we read, Consider therefore the kindness and sternness of God, sternness to those who fell, but kindness to you, provided that you continue in his kindness, otherwise you will be cut off. And if they do not persist in unbelief, they will be grafted in, for God is able to graft them in again. So you see that God is kind but also very stern. There are consequences for unbelief, and if the Jews will believe in God again, he will accept them back. They will be grafted in, for God is able to put them back where they were, or rather graft them in again. If you want to learn more about replacement theology, read our free leaflet, available online via our website. So please join us in praying for Israel. Discover more at www.prayerforI.org.